Hey, what's up? Uh, my name is Scott. I'm going to be talking about why this component could have been a div. And that title is definitely a bit ridiculous and not entirely accurate, but I thought it was funny. So let's first, as CJ said, I'm the executive producer of Syntax. You can find me on the socials here. If you need a web development, just fun stuff going on. We do all kinds of crazy stuff on YouTube, from coding competitions to just wacky stuff in general. And I'm also over at Sentry, where I get to work on Syntax full time. So check out Sentry. I know they're a sponsor here, but a great service. And I'm going to go really fast because I got too many demos. I made too many slides. And instead of cutting things out, I'm just going to go quick. So I made a bunch of code and demos on my site here. I will have this QR code available at the end of the talk if you found anything that's interesting. But just to let you know, and even though I am going quick, I do want to show you that this is actually all individual particles here. Where's my mouse? So and this is React 3 Fiber. So I don't write a ton of React, but React 3 Fiber rips. And man, this was really a joy to work in, and actually just dumps an SVG in here. So pretty neat. Again, I'll have this slide in here at the end so you can copy that. I'm going to get right into it. And the first, well, before I do that, actually, we are in bubbles all the time, and I know there's potential criticism around the React ecosystem for being too much in a React bubble, right? You're doing things the React way all the time. And I'm here to get you out of that bubble just a little bit and show you what's possible with web APIs, some of which that have existed in the browser for a while, some of which that are still coming, some of which will be available this year in all browsers, and some that will be available in the future. And hopefully we'll get you out of that bubble and just see what's available in the wider web ecosystem here and maybe why it matters. So the first one is not exciting, but I think it sets things up a little bit. So dialogues and drawers. We've seen the dialog element. This is available in all browsers. It's been here for a while. So it's been in Chrome since version 37, Safari since 15.4, Firefox 98, right? You can use this obviously in React with a show modal on a ref or anything like that. But for some reason, a lot of us are still doing the ampersand, hide a div, position fix that div, or absolute, inset, whatever, right? Dialog exists and it's great. And the cool thing about Dialog is that just simply by using it, you automatically get keyboard shortcuts to close it. You get focus capture. You get all of this stuff baked into the browser, meaning that you don't have to type it yourself. And ultimately, in a microcosm, this is like a lot of what this talk is about, is that these things are being taken care of for you in the browser when so many of us are having to write key events for all of our things like this. And then that just leads to situations where, well, we miss things, or the AI misses things, or things don't become as smooth as they can be. And that's going to be a common theme through this. And now, a lot of people critique this because the drawer, well, it's not as fancy, right? There are issues with the dialog element, but there are additional CSS properties and features that come in here to save the day. For instance, starting style allows us now to just simply add animations to this thing using the straight up transition property. So now, again, you don't often think about, we think about these drawers as dialogues and drawers and whatever, but it's really simple to wire up a dialog element, turn it into a drawer, and again, we get keyboard support, everything out of the box. And likewise, there's another property called allow, or a value, allow discrete, that you can set on properties that couldn't actually be animated in the past. So before, you're trying to animate something out, use display none, it disappears from the DOM, there's no animation. Now we have allow discrete, which allows you to essentially wait until the animation is completed before removing something from the DOM. So Dialog's great for these sort of reasons. And it does show Firefox support for this, and that's a bit wrong because Firefox, where's my hover support? So Firefox, it has support for allow discrete, but not on display just yet, but hopefully very soon. Oh, I will say, even with that allow discrete, that business. This does progressively enhance really well. So you, just by not having that on Firefox, you just don't get an animation. That's not a problem. That's not a problem for me. All right. Scroll Snap. Scroll Snap's an API that has existed for a while now. It's available in a lot of browsers. Chrome 69, nice. Safari 11, Firefox 68. And a lot of people just think of Scroll Snap as being carousel sliders or whatever. But like the classic swipe real interface can be done so easily with like no code with scroll swipe. And the thing I love about this is that like I know me personally, when I reach for touch animation libraries, drag animation libraries, whether that's motion or any of these things, they're great, they're fantastic, they allow you to do so many cool things, but nothing feels as stinking smooth as the scroll that's native into the browser. I don't like. I've used a ton of scrolling and panning in whatever libraries, and they just don't feel as good as this. You're offloading a lot of that to JavaScript. You're just updating transition or translation properties. When in this is it's just straight up scrolling. You get touch and scroll support without having to accommodate for either of that, and it just feels good. It's super easy. Scroll, snap, type, Y mandatory, overflow, auto. So I'm going to go really quick through some of this stuff because I got to move here. This is the classic swiper. A lot of people don't think about this as you're always going to reach for a component. I've reached for this 100 times where you're doing the push down and drag events and you're tracking the values and you're doing the translation. This works with scroll snap super easily. And the trick here is just that you're doing a grid, you have one in the middle that takes up the space and you're snapping to the middle. So because you're always snapping to the middle, it can't ever reach the middle of the other one, so it just snaps back. And a key point about this is that like you might be thinking like, okay, but I need my JavaScript, I need my events. And that's a key point because like this talk is not about eliminating JavaScript. It's not about removing React. It's about letting the browser take care of the stuff that it is super good at, and then offloading those things to the browser, the rendering engine, so that way it can be smooth as hell. And then we get the events and all that stuff. You could still track it with JavaScript, fire those events, control, do whatever you need to do, and it just works. And there's actually a future API that'll allow this to stay open, so you can have multiple buttons and clicks. You can't do that right now without JavaScript, but again, you just toss a little bit of JavaScript on that bad boy, and it works. All right. Carousels. Carousels are getting dang buttons now with Scroll Snap. And this is actually pretty interesting. It's a scroll marker, gives you these little dots that are even interactive. And you even have the scroll button pseudo element, and you can set the scroll buttons that actually do this. And the cool thing here is that we automatically have swipe and touch support, mobile, desktop, and everything. Again, just Scroll Snap. I love Scroll Snap, and I just feel like people don't use it enough. All right. Let's move on from scroll snap. Scroll-driven. So scroll-driven animations are really sick for a lot of reasons. This is a new API that is available in everything and behind a flag in Firefox. So if you've seen that this scroll-driven animations is like future stuff, it's coming. It's coming very soon. And the cool thing here is that you're just specifying an animation timeline. You're assigning an animation to it. And this also uses scroll snap, but check it out. Like, this is the type of interface you'll see a lot. And these types of things, again, it feels smooth as hell because you're using the browser's native scrolling. And now we can control the animations with it. I feel like a lot of times we see animation timeline demos, it's just like, ooh, parallax, right? But there's really real usable UI to come out of some of this stuff. This is one that we do all the time, a sticky header. And this one uses a container type of scroll state. So we're defining the container type of scroll state, and then we're able to use a container query to check when the top is stuck and then change the CSS accordingly. There's no JavaScript in this bad boy. And I do think like, this is something that we've done with JavaScript forever. I don't know, what was it, like Headroom, or there was all these different plugins we used to use to change the header when you scrolled. But now, like, you could do it in a couple lines of CSS. Slick. Okay, values. I bet you didn't know that you could do this with CSS. You can count that value up and down. Now, this uses a couple of things, app property, which allows you to specify a type in CSS. Did anybody know that CSS had types now? Yeah, and they're cool, but a lot of times when people talk about types in CSS, they're like, oh, you can animate gradients with them. Like, oh, okay, cool. But you can also do stuff like counting. And you can use these values to calculate and use as properties and all kinds of stuff just beyond counting a number up and down. But this uses a thing called counter reset, where you're assigning the counter a name. In this case, it's the name is n, and then you're assigning it to a variable. And then this is only just outputting it here, but the real everything is happening from a CSS keyframes. We were just saying count to n equals 1 million, and it just works. It's sick. This is supported in just about everything. I'm not getting my hover here, but a good support for that one. Sibling index. This is a sick API, and this example is a little trite, but we use this all the time in syntax. How many times when you're working with JavaScript or anything like that, what you end up writing is nth child 1, nth child 2, nth child 3. But so many times we add something to the list, and then that whole CSS gets rocked. So then you have to write JavaScript to accommodate for that, or add an index to pass that in as a prop to then update the CSS to have the CSS be dynamic. But this is like a straight up one-liner where you can just say, what's the sibling index? Oh, the sibling index is this. I can do math. I can do animation delays for staggered animations with one line of CSS using sibling index. This is coming to Firefox, but it's available in everything right now. Really sick API. Really simple too. Okay, what am I at? 7 minutes. All right. I need to cruise here. All right. People talk about anchor menus as just like an anchor is allow you to anchor to something else. That's great. But what people don't often think about is that you get baked in position try fallbacks. So check this out. As this gets inline or block on either dimension, it automatically flips. And this is being done just purely with this one line of position try fallbacks, flip block or flip inline. Even just this tweet was done June 7th saying CSS tooltips. Works until you have to get it near an edge. Like, brother, you can do this today in all the browsers. So like, you don't need JavaScript to make this. And I'm not hating on this guy, but people just straight up don't know about this stuff, that you can do this. And you toss this onto a menu, a dropdown, or anything like that, and it just works anywhere on the screen, mobile, desktop, whatever. All right, select list. You're going to be able to style select list in every single browser this year, and this is just a straight up select list. There's two cool things about here. One, there's a new selected content element in HTML that gives you the currently selected item. The other one is just that you can just toss whatever you want inside of a select list, and now it has the appearance of whatever you want just by using appearance base select. You can style it with CSS. On the surface, this is cool. We have a lot of components to do select lists and all that stuff, but now we don't need that. And the cool thing is, again, on mobile, it's going to pop up with the default native select list. No more faking inputs to do what we want with select list and all that stuff. And you can animate it since it's just a popover. So again, you can have full control of how you want this thing to look. Now, the cool thing about this is that people often think of that as being like, oh, okay, we can make our select list look pretty now, right? They're no longer ugly. But Una did this really great demo of an emoji picker using a select list. This bad boy is just a select list. I've never seen a select list that looks like this. But we use this type of component all the time, and it's so cool that this can be the native form element without faking it, without doing it with a ton of divs, and all that cool stuff. All right, good, I'm moving time. Okay, so I bet you did not know that HTML is getting declarative partial updates and out-of-order streaming in straight-up HTML. This is really sick, and this could be the future of how we use web frameworks in general, or it could be the future of just how you're writing code, because this is inspired by Astro's Island architecture. You're going to be able to have out-of-order streaming directly in HTML straight up. And this, even though it's only in Chrome today behind a flag, there's a polyfill that works for this across all major browsers. You can actually try this today. It's crazy. And you see this new like question mark start thing? That's an old XML tag. I believe it's called processing instructions. Don't hold me to that, but they're reusing that as it's a valid tag that's existed for a while. And you can even have, as you can see, fallback state in here. This is crazy. Another crazy API that you may have seen because it's gotten a lot of hype is the HTML in Canvas API. This one, again, is behind a flag in Chrome. This one is crazy because you're taking DOM and drawing it with Canvas. We build so many interfaces with Canvas, and you lose so much because people who are non-3D users, they don't have WebGL, they're just not going to get an experience, or maybe the accessibility, those types of things. You can see that this is, let me The text is a little small, but I'll say hello, and this is clearly rendered as a canvas. This is great. You just drop in your same DOM into a canvas and then paint it with canvas. Throw some shaders on that bad boy, get all kinds of stuff going. And you can see that DOM, I just dropped it in the middle of the universe here. This thing is pretty sick. I will say this usually tanks my CPU, and in giving this talk, this talk is so processor intensive. My computer went to like 50% battery while I was preparing this, so I gotta make sure this doesn't die. All right. This is a small project I've been working on. If this stuff interests you, you can check it out. It's called Graffiti, graffiti-ui.com. It's just a handful of elements that show what you can do without JavaScript. And it's not intended necessarily to be used as like a replacement for JavaScript, but it's like a showcase of here's all the cool stuff that you can do with just CSS. If this interests you, this is by no means like a finished product, but there's a lot of cool stuff in here. And if you are interested, check it out. There's a lot of fun stuff like user menus, swipes, all that kind of stuff that we showed here. So obviously AI is the elephant in the room here. It's like, why does this stuff even matter? Well, agents can write this stuff. It's less code. Every time you give it some API library, what are you doing? You're going over to Context 7. Context 7's got to get the newest, latest docs, or there's an update, and now Context 7's using the wrong old docs, or maybe not Context 7, but your AI has got some training on some old docs. It uses some crappy old APIs. I write Svelte, and they had this huge API change, and AI is just like, let me use this old API. And it's like, please don't. I'm begging you. I've asked you several times. But when you have less code and less APIs and things that are baked into the browser and things that, most importantly, aren't going to change because they're in the browser, the agents writing it it's a pro. And you really just have to ask them very nicely. And so, again, no shade on floating UI. Floating UI is dope. It's done so much. But imagine writing 2 lines of CSS instead of importing a library that imports 10 other libraries that has this massive ecosystem of connected packages where one gets compromised and you get wormed, as you see. I tried really hard to make this worm look cool, and I was prompting Claude. I'm like, please make worm more impressive. Make my worm impressive, please. And this is what I get. This is the most impressive worm this thing could come up with. So I guess that's the best it can do. We're not toast yet. I hear oftentimes, though, that like nowadays people are talking about like I can build all my own components now because it's easy to do it. The cost of building all of your own components now is so much less because you just say, hey, AI, this is what I need. Now you're not going off onto some other potential attack vector here. And no, I'm not saying there's no downsides to that. Let me be very clear. There's definitely downsides to any approach here. But I do think that the browser doing so much for you makes this part of it way easier. All right. Again, easy stuff. Just say use Dialog over a modal line. And actually, I found with the models being so up to date, it knows how to use Dialog. It knows how to use has. It knows how to use anchor just fine. Like, these aren't things that you're having to pass it docs to do. And I love this no dependency without asking first because it loves to be like, you know what? 10 years ago, 10,000 libraries used this particular package. That means that's what I got to use. But you have control over what it uses, right? You have control over the libraries, the code, all that stuff you bring into our project. And maybe now more than ever, people are just like, give me app, code comes in, you're like, whatever, it works. I believe there's a higher bar than that, right? All right, I'm a little bit over, so the Q&A will just be over by a couple of minutes. But code and demos are here. And again, it's just on my website, tolin.ski, if you want to check that out. Now it's time for me to go slower, okay? Yeah, check me out on Syntax. We do stuff like this. If this was interesting to you at all, we talk about new APIs all the time on here. And we're exploring them, we're diving into them, we're doing challenges with them, and we're doing all kinds of stuff. Thank you. Thank you so much.